So hey y'all, I'm back with another video. So tonight's video is yet again another Chioma Chats video podcast edition. Let's go ahead and cue that theme song. Chioma Chat. Chioma Chat. Chioma Chat. Chioma Chat. Chioma Chat. Say Chioma Chat. Chioma Chat. Chioma Chat. Say Chioma Chat. Chioma Chat. Say Chioma Chat. Chioma Chat. Say grab a snack and bring it back. Hey, Chioma Chat. It's Chioma Chat. Say hey, get it, twerk. Hey, twerk. Hey, and it's Chioma Chat. Ah. Crazy how this video is dealing with Nicki Minaj, and that's literally me using her song. So by the title, we're going to be talking about the latest drama involving Nicki Minaj, Megan Thee Stallion, and a very serious legal situation that has social media basically on fire. So I was scrolling on like my usual Instagram, I guess doom scrolling, and I saw Nicki Minaj's post and her comments were turned off, and she was asking like, you know, what was that law you were talking about? And I was reading what she posted, and it was basically saying that Megan Thee Stallion may have to go into litigation for a lawsuit that is against her, dealing with her having sexual relations in front of one of her former employees. And I was just like, is this real life or is Nicki trolling? Because I feel like Nicki's in drama with female rappers, and that's the main time that she's ever in drama. And I hate seeing it as someone who's a Nicki Minaj fan. Like, I'm a fan of her music, but I think certain things about how she carries herself as of recent has definitely dawned on me and definitely given me a change of perspective. So, you know, there's a lot of shade, there's a lot of history, and honestly, a lot of layers to this one. But before we dive in, I want to take a second to reflect on something. A few years ago, maybe like 3 to 5 years ago, I made a video where I kind of defended Nicki Minaj and her husband regarding his sexual assault case. At the time, I was younger and I was really deep in my admiration for Nicki Minaj as a... What? Thunder strike 'em. I know y'all heard that. That is crazy. It just started thunderstorming like there's no tomorrow. Anyway, I was very deep in my admiration for Nicki Minaj as an artist, and I thought maybe the truth had been distorted because that's what she kind of presented. I wanted to believe that a woman as powerful and smart as Nicki wouldn't be with someone who did something so awful, right? And she claimed there was a letter. She made it sound like the victim had lied or, you know, recanted her statement. And I just didn't question it like I should have. But looking back, I realized that admiration should never, ever blur reality. And I took those videos down a long time ago. And, you know, I definitely have addressed it, but I do want to publicly say that I take full accountability for not standing fully in empathy with a victim of sexual violence. And a lot of people were holding me accountable for that. And I wasn't like, oh, I'm just siding with Nicki, but I definitely was like, you know, maybe this could be true, but I see how that is hurtful, you know what I'm saying, and also irresponsible. So that was a huge lesson for me, not just as a content creator, but just as a woman, of course, right? You can love someone's art and still hold them accountable. You can be a fan of someone and still say, this is not right. And honestly, I think that moment was the beginning of me noticing a change with Nicki Minaj, not just how I saw Nicki, but how a lot of people were starting to see her. Over the last few years, it feels like more and more people have pulled back from Nicki Minaj, and not because they stopped respecting her music. Of course, I'm gonna respect her music, but because they started realizing the energy she puts out doesn't always match the greatness that she's built her name on. There has definitely been a shift, and I'm sorry to all my barbs that are gonna unsubscribe and drag me and put me on Lipstick Alley and Reddit. I've seen y'all before, but it's like the same woman who once made us feel empowered and bold and fearless in her music is now always lashing out or holding grudges and fighting battles that literally do not serve her. I think she's better than this. The comments aren't the same anymore. People who used to go to war defending her are starting to quietly fall back, and it's really sad to witness because when you watch someone that you've admired begin to just kind of unravel publicly, it makes you question every single thing they once stood for. And that is where I was at, and I still kind of am. And I really want that to be heard before I say anything else. Because today's video, I'm not just, you know, taking sides here, but it's really just unpacking why this situation with Nicki's shade and Megan's legal case and all the mess in between is so much deeper than just rap beef or petty internet posts. So I've broken this video down into 5 main talking points. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. You guys, it is raining really, really bad, like thunderstorming. And this is my last video that I'm filming today. This is my 5th video that I'm filming today, and I'm not going to stop. So I'm sorry. I will try to like let the thunder and lightning be out of the microphone as much as I can. But I know this microphone picks up a lot, but ooh, I don't know. God is mad with us. I don't know what's been going on, but man, okay. So starting off with point number 1 is just explaining Megan's legal battle. So the spark for all of this is the legal case involving a former employee of Megan Thee Stallion who claims that he was forced to witness Megan having sex in an SUV truck while on the job, which is crazy, right? He says this made for a hostile work environment and that it emotionally distressed him to a point where he believes that he deserves compensation. And I also read something along the lines of unpaid wages. So a judge basically recently ruled that there's enough evidence for this case to move forward, which means Megan will have to show up in court, right, and defend herself, and Roc Nation, who she's managed by, who is owned by Jay-Z, will also be a part of that process. Now, whether this man wins or loses in court, this one is one of those lawsuits that celebrities hate because it doesn't just affect their brand, it really brings in headlines that can be used against them in other ways, right? And that is exactly what Nicki Minaj did. There's a real conversation to be had about employee rights and boundaries in celebrity environments because people love to blur the lines when it's a celebrity. All of a sudden, things don't matter, or celebrities think that they're above the program, and what constitutes a hostile work setting. But that conversation is getting overshadowed by petty celebrity drama. The case itself doesn't prove Megan did anything criminal, but it does open the door for speculation and image damage, if we're being real, because this makes Megan look very bad. Megan's already been through so much publicly with the Tory Lanez trial, so to now be dragged into another legal mess, this time involving sex, is just another blow to her career and her peace. It's also worth noting that many celebrities operate in very unprofessional environments where the lines between personal and business get blurred, like I said, and that is not an excuse, but I do think it is part of the reason why a lot of these lawsuits keep happening. People just think they're above the program. If this man's claims are true, it speaks to a bigger issue about how people treat those who work for them, especially in the entertainment industry where the lines are often crossed. And I do believe what he's saying is true. Regardless of how this case ends, Megan is now forced to defend her name in a system that already failed her once, or that she kind of manipulated as well, depending on how you look at it. So moving on to point number 2, Nicki Minaj's hypocrisy, right? Here's where it gets messy. So Nicki Minaj is acting like Megan is getting dragged into court is somehow her karma. You know, she was talking about karma. But let's be very real, Nicki. This does not cancel out the fact that Nicki's husband is a convicted sex offender. You can throw all the subliminals that you want, but that is still on your record, right? And she didn't just date him. She married him. She had a child with him and went on a full-blown media campaign to defend him and discredit the victim and shift the narrative. She even claimed the victim wrote a letter to the judge recanting her statement, which may or may not be true. But, you know, when there was no hard proof of that, she literally tried to weaponize sympathy and cast herself as the victim in that situation when it really was her making the choice to be with that man. And a lot of us, myself included at the time, kind of fell for it. But let's not forget, Nicki Minaj also tried to use her industry connections to intimidate this victim. We did see that. Intimidate her behind the scenes, according to public allegations. The woman said she felt pressured and even harassed and even had to move multiple times. And, you know, that's not normal. That's not okay. So the fact that Nicki is now sitting on social media acting like she's morally superior to Megan just feels completely tone deaf. I'm not gonna lie, Nicki. You don't get to use someone else's legal situation as a punchline when your own home is built on silence, denial, and PR spinning narratives. It's one thing to defend your man, which I can respect, but it's another thing entirely to do it at the expense of another woman's pain. Now, moving on to point number 3, rap beef versus real life. We all know that rap beefs come with disses, shade, and wordplay. You know, I be here for it. I be like, yeah, girls, get in the booth. Let me hear y'all snap. Both Nicki and Megan have thrown subliminals and direct bars at each other. You know, Nicki has called Megan Bigfoot, a horse, and clowned her weight and her height on Queen Radio. We've seen that. And Megan has taken shots too, you know? I remember when she said on her song, I'm a brat, I'm not an effing Barbie. You know what I'm saying? So if we're just talking about rap music, fine. No, I don't got no problem with that. Everything's fair in love and hip hop, right? But when you drag in real life court cases, especially those involving sexual misconduct, into the mess just to be petty, it stops being art to me and it starts being character revealing. And don't get me wrong, Megan did kind of start with that whole Megan's Law thing, but they had been going back and forth before that. And I say that as someone who loves rap beefs, you know, when they're done right, you know, i.e. Kendrick Lamar and Drake. But this is just two grown women taking turns trying to out embarrass each other on the internet. And I know Megan hasn't responded. I doubt she's gonna say anything, but she has played into this beef, let's be real. The fans love drama, but the public image damage is real and it's very lasting. There's already a very misogynistic double standard in rap where women are expected to, you know, just keep it cute while the men get away with so much worse. So when women finally get to the top and they waste their platform throwing shade over trauma instead of addressing the real systems at play that affect all of them, I think that's very disappointing. This beef could have been about competition, about lyricism, or even legacy, but instead it's now reduced to lawsuits and Instagram shade, and I'm not amused by that whatsoever. Moving on to point number 4, the Jay-Z and Tidal connection. Now let's talk about, you know, Jay-Z's connection to all of this, because that is a very big part, because it's the biggest part of Nicki's beef with Megan, and it seems to be an extension of her issues with Jay-Z. Nicki has been vocal for years about her problems with Jay-Z, especially after the sale of Tidal, the streaming service that launched with artists like Nicki Minaj and Kanye and Beyonce, all as stakeholders, right? Nicki claims she never got the money that she was owed from that deal, and that Jay-Z essentially ghosted her when it was time to collect the payment, which would make anybody mad. Now, if that's true, I would be heated too. Like, Nicki, come on now, she need to collect her coin. Give my sis her coin, especially if millions of dollars are involved. But if it really is that serious, then Nicki has every resource to litigate it. She's a millionaire. She's a multimillionaire. She can afford legal representation. So why haven't we seen this play out in court, right? I want that answer. The deeper issue is that Nicki sees Roc Nation as an enemy because she views Jay-Z as the root of betrayal, and she has every right to feel that way. But since Megan is tied to Roc Nation and Jay-Z, she becomes collateral damage in that bigger grudge. It's like Nicki's been holding onto this chip on her shoulder for years and is now using every single opportunity to remind folks that she still feels robbed. And I get that, but I'd rather see it in court. Because the truth is, if that money was legally owed to her, she should have pursued it a long time ago, and I feel like she would have. This vendetta has now turned personal, and it's now bleeding into every interaction she has in the industry. It's no longer just about this money. It seems to be about pride, ego, and unfinished business. Moving on to my 5th and final point, which is a fall from grace, okay? And I say that respectfully, but I think the saddest part about all of this is seeing what Nicki Minaj has become, especially for me, because, you know, I was Nicki Minaj down, and I still like Nicki's music, but come on, Nicki, let's get it together, because Nicki Minaj is still a staple in rap, no doubt, right? She's the millennial queen of rap, if you ask me. She changed the game. She inspired so many of us to be bold, to be lyrical, and to be ourselves unapologetically when it comes to our art. But now, her name is more associated with drama, lawsuits, and Instagram tantrums than music. And what's even more telling is that none of the new generation of female rappers fool with her anymore. Let's be real. JT, Lotto, Coi Leray, Megan, Cardi, all of them either tried to work with her and it fell apart, or they actively avoid her now. And that's, to me, not a coincidence. At some point, you have to stop saying everyone else is the problem and look in the mirror, right? And I say this as someone who has defended Nicki for years. She was my introduction to rap as a girl growing up. She made it okay, again, to be loud and witty and colorful and unapologetic. But the same power she once used to inspire is now being weaponized to belittle and to isolate. It's like she's stuck in a loop of, like, you know, reliving old grudges instead of just growing past them and living her best life. And maybe that's the real tragedy, outliving your prime and turning your influence into a cautionary tale. So that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please let me know what you think on my commentary down below. What do you think? What you know? Let me know. If y'all haven't already, please support my journey to becoming Miss Diaspora Nigeria USA 2025. The link is pinned down below. If you support me, you're supporting all of my pageant expenses and my journey, and also ending hunger in Nigeria, which is always great. So thank you in advance if you decide to donate. And as always, don't forget to follow me on all of my social media networks, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye, y'all.
Call me Bella, say I look stellar. Tu me fais better, ils sont jealous. Des mon père from my left side. J'ai regardé, je ne vois pas no other man. Number one, Papa, you know you're my only one. releases. It do my day be increasing. It baby bless me like sneezes. I